As we have many aspiring entrepreneurs in the audience, what are the traits, skills, and experiences that you value the most when you are looking for leaders to fund or hire? So I'd like each of our panelists to address that. Eric?
I think it's important in a global environment to emphasize communication skills, because communication skills are extremely critical in cementing the team. The communication skills refer to not just bridging language differences, but bridging cultural differences, and that's even more critical. A fast-moving company, an entrepreneurial company, relies upon the rapid flow of information and the transparent flow of information. Now, transparency is something which is fairly common in Silicon Valley. It is much less common in other cultures. So it takes a lot of work and leadership on the part of the CEO to achieve the level of transparency across all the international operations that's required. And it's very easy when you're several thousand miles away to not reveal all the information that can or should be revealed. There's no one really watching over your shoulder every day. So if you're able to identify this trait of transparency early on and nurture it and develop it and reward it, I think it just sets the whole executive culture on a different path, which is far more positive. I want to pick up also on something else which Dave referred to by calling this process management. I guess I refer to it more generally in the operating system of the executive team. Basically, it's the process, the conventions, the norms, the behavioral codes that sets the tone for the entire team. I think an executive team that is distributed around the globe must make some investments in process, in norms, and also in technology. These days you can have extremely good quality video conferencing system for not too much money. It used to be that you had to use ISDN for video conferencing, but today you can use IP. And it's far, far cheaper. And you can have high definition screens, and so you can have a very acceptable level of video conferencing. But it's not enough to just have the technology. There has to be the norms and the processes to use it. What used to be sort of a check-in time at 8 o'clock on Monday morning around the water cooler in the Silicon Valley startup has to be replaced by a more formal go around the world literally, and ensuring that the right information is brought up, discussed, perhaps shared in the form of a document or a slide set or a spreadsheet or something, or a schedule, such that there is structured communication. So there has to be structured communication, and therefore propensity for not just tolerating it, but encouraging it in a management team. So that's a second trait that I think is essential. It's not just the communication skills, it's the ability to operate in a more structured environment and comply with perhaps something what could have been viewed as somewhat regimented processes in the past. But these days it's not regimented, it's a necessary way to communicate.
Great, thank you. Michael?
I think what I look for was pretty much, as Eric said, since we are operating a long distance apart and with the time zone difference, I think trust is the first thing I'm looking into. Whoever I'm going to hire over there to run the operations, I have to trust him 100%. And to achieve that, we have to build the trust among the team. The executive members have to be willing to work with other team members, at the same time sharing the information that is supposed to share. Before, when we sit in one conference room to talk about budget planning, it's easy, right? If you have issues, you can talk about it. Now they are sitting, thousands of miles away, and they have problems. If they don't really speak out, we don't know. And another thing is we cannot have, second thoughts about what they say. If they share certain information with us, we have to, first trust those informations are correct and the requirements are true and genuine. So I think those are the things, what I'm looking into. First is that whether we can trust those people, and the second is, for information shared among different teams, we have to put 100% support behind that.
Great, thank you. David?
Yeah, when we look for, the specific traits, particularly, in our business, we back CEOs and founders, and I have found, over the last, 13, 14 years I've been doing this, that the traits are actually global in nature. And there's two kind of success traits that we look for, and each trait can be successful in different types of businesses, and I'll expand on that. One trait is this passion for hating to lose. My partner calls it wanting to win, but I call it hating to lose, and because it kind of adds a little bit of a dark passion to it. And it's kind of like you read in the magazines how people like Tiger Woods or Michael Jordan just they don't even want to lose when they're playing video games with their friends or playing cards at a pool table, right? In Vegas or wherever they are. And what we found is for companies that stick to a business model, to one business model that they started off with, and that business model, actually gets them to the end of the rainbow, people who have that trait are extremely valuable. These are companies like, Sling Media, Foundry Networks, 51Job. 51Job is the monster.com of China. They knew what they wanted to do. They went to implement the business model, and they beat the, crap out of the competitors, and they just had this personality where they'll figure out a way to win all the time. And it's almost scary looking at these, and working with these people, because even when you argue with them, they kind of want to win everything. Now there's another group where this is kind of the story about flexibility, which is not all business models are going to stay the same. In fact, many of them have to change business models because either the market's very dynamic, or things changed, and they need to adjust, and they need to adjust very fast. And we found that in business models where we kind of get a sense that they probably have to change the business model along the way, people who are flexible in nature, willing to take kind of out-of-the-box risks, tend to excel in those kinds of business models. And these, when I look at CEOs of companies like About.com, or we have one company called OPI in China, which is a Facebook of China, they have changed their business model 3-4 times. And these CEOs were flexible enough to say, what, I got to try something different, but they do it very quickly. When something doesn't work, they figure out, they cut their losses, move on to the next one, and they don't cling on to that. And so when the market's very dynamic and the business model's changing, that flexibility is an incredibly important trait that's necessary. But if they're so lucky enough that all they have to do is implement, and the market's there for them, and those kinds of companies, it's the people who just absolutely have this fierce desire not to lose, have made him gone very far. And so these are the two things that we kind of check for when we do our due diligence and talk to folks, because being a senior team, a founding team of a startup is very, very stressful and difficult. And you do need somebody who's mercurial enough, but at the same time having one of these two traits. And as Eric and Michael's mentioning, obviously you got to build a trust and have a operating system that works. But these are the two traits that has to be innate in the person.